Well, first of all, thank you to all who took part in the service. It's always a privilege to know that there are people within the community who are capable to lead services, and it's very important. First of all, let me welcome Liron Reshif, who is from New Israel Fund. And thank you so much for coming. I would have come to this service as well if I knew that Rabbi Dabush is speaking. Thank you. And a special welcome to Rabbi Dabush, to the LJS, to give sermon this morning. He flew into London early this morning, and in fact, his flight was slightly delayed. And we are very glad that you made it on time. So thank you so much for you must be exhausted. It was an early flight, delayed. So I hope that this service will be energizing moment for you rather than tiring exercise. And Avi is heading to Limud Festival tonight. So we are especially grateful to you for being with us here. So Rabbi Dabush is the executive director of Rabbis for Human Rights, the only rabbinic movement in Israel explicitly dedicated to promoting human rights in Israel and the occupied territories. Rabbi Dabush was born in Ashkelon in southern Israel to a religious Mizrahi family. His spiritual and ideological journey moved him away from orthodoxy to become socially and politically active on environmental matters, inclusive education, and support for marginalized communities. He has been a driving force in various social organizations and movements, including the Movement for the Future of the Western Negev, which advocates for a sustained political agreement between Israel and Gaza. Earlier this year, Rabbi Dabush completed his rabbinical studies and received smicha, ordination, from Shalom Hartman Institute. He was awarded the New Israel UK's Human Rights Prize in 2021. On October the 7th, 2023, Rabbi Dabush survived Hamas's terror attack at his home in Kibbutz Nirim. He is a leading voice in advocating for the return of the hostages and continues his call for human rights and peace across the region. Avi, Rabbi Dabush, we welcome you in our traditional way and to say to you, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, berachnuchem mi beit Adonai. Blessed are you who come in the name of the Eternal One. We bless you from the house of the Eternal One.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor for me. I must say that I'm a guest of your community and the guest of Rabbi Alexandra and the other rabbis and the leaders of the community, but also a guest of the NIF, the New Israel Fund. And again, Liron is here, so if someone wants to connect, if someone is not connecting to the NIF yet, and he wants to connect, you can do it with her. I want to say a few words, just to begin with the portion, with the parasha. And there is, for my opinion, one of the beautiful sentences or phrases in the Torah, and we just read it. Et achai anochi mevakesh. It's beautiful Hebrew, and of course it's not a regular one. I seek for my brothers. So I really feel that I'm in a journey. I was in New York and Washington and Boston and now in London and Birmingham in seeking for my brothers and sisters, and actually also finding. I'm seeking for my brothers and sisters in Israel, including 100 hostages that we are still fighting so much in order to return them home. A lot of them we know personally. Part of them are even close friends. And I also seek for my brothers and sisters from the river to the sea, the people that really support, as we just pray, support the values of peace, of equality, of justice, of human rights, of every human being, as part of our universal values, but also as main part of our Judaism and Zionism. And I thought about these times. Today it's the shortest day during the year. And there is a story that I think that most of you know about the first people that celebrated Hanukkah. And that's of course Adam and Eve. And that was in their first year or their first winter out of Eden. And they had this experience, this terrible and unique experience of the days becoming shorter and shorter. And the darkness is getting bigger and bigger, and there is less and less light. And they were really afraid. And they started to pray and to be afraid that it's the end of the world. And a day after like in 22 of December, they saw that it's again, the darkness start to shorten, and there is more light, like bit and bit every day. And they were celebrating for 8 days, and that's according to this story from the Talmud, from Masechet Avodah Zarah, it's the basis for Hanukkah. And I thought that we can think about this story as a kind of a children, very interesting story about unique experience in the history of humankind. But also in a way I feel for myself and for my community that are still displaced. We are still in Vayeshev. Kibbutz Nirim is on the border of Gaza, less than 2 kilometers from Khan Yunis, so we can't go back yet. It's a time of darkness. And every day there is more and more darkness. And in a way, even if we understand, like in our heads, and we have experience from our Jewish history and our humankind history, in a way we are worried that this is the end of the world, or the end of the world as we know it, or the end of the world as we want to know. And that's a big question of what you are doing in such a time. And I thought about 3 things that we used to do, or we are doing since October 7th. So as a community, I will just tell in short words what we experienced. On October 6th, we celebrated in Kibbutz Nirim the anniversary of the kibbutz, 77 years. Kibbutz Nirim have a unique role in the Zionist history of the Negev. And on October 7th, as you know the story, around 6:30, we started to hear the alarms. I was with my wife and her children, 12 and 15, and we ran to our shelter. Unfortunately, of course, we are really experiencing that. More than 23 years of this very long war, unfortunately. And after about 5 minutes, we heard gunshooting inside the kibbutz. And after another 5 minutes, we heard commands in Arabic beside our window, our shelter window. So Kibbutz Nirim was the first kibbutz in our area that the Hamas got into, because, again, it's really near Khan Yunis. And it started a very long day, and more than that, around 36 hours that we were in the shelters. The first 8 hours without any army. And then the army came, and there was a battle inside the kibbutz. And on Sunday afternoon, they evacuated us, the army, to Eilat. We were 4 months in the same hotel, all the community. And then we pushed ourselves. In November, we decided to do so, and in February, we moved to Beersheba. And I thought that we learned the power of being together, and the power of taking responsibility of your life. Because Nirim has very strong forces. Each community has another strength and flaws and so on. And Nirim has this unique thing of we are independent, we can do things for ourselves and so on. So when the community got to Eilat on Sunday night, we were a community with 5 people that got murdered, 5 people that were kidnapped. But on Tuesday morning, we started to have infrastructures for the kindergarten and for the school, like in the hotel itself, and for the elderly and so on, in the powers of Nirim. And that was really amazing. And I'm proud of my wife that led that, but I learned the power of women leadership, because that was the leadership that took Nirim and still taking Nirim to the future. The other thing was, in that first week on Tuesday, we had our first meeting of Rabbis for Human Rights. And Rabbis for Human Rights was founded in the first Intifada around 1988. And that was a response to the violations of human rights in the occupied territories. For many Israelis, I guess it was the first time that they understood that there is Palestinian peoples and they demand their freedom. I was a child then, and Gaza was our big city. Ashkelon is around 8 kilometers from Gaza. Ashkelon was much smaller. Gaza was bigger. The border, we didn't see it as a border. We didn't saw the occupation and the power relation. It was open. People from Gaza came to work in our fields and build our houses and so on. And we came inside to go to the market and the beach and the dentist and the garage and so on. So in the first Intifada, the rabbis from all streams reacted to those violations of human rights and established this very important organization. So in that week, we asked ourselves, what can we do? And when we talked with the staff and the board members, we understood that the instinct is, of course, to shut down and to protect ourselves and our families. Of course, my instinct was like that. But actually, we need to do the opposite, because when we talked with our partners, the Palestinian partners in the West Bank, we are working for many years in the West Bank in protective presence for farmers, for shepherds, for community in danger. They told us that now they need a very basic help of food supply, of medical supply, and so on. And from human rights organization, we became kind of humanitarian organization, and we just respond to that. And that is the second thing that I always think that we should do. And this is actually a healing process, because I'm also always asking myself, was it too quick that I'm after 2 days I was again leading the organization and the work and so on. And sometimes I feel that maybe it was for me. But also there was a great power of healing when you, like Midrash Tanchuma said, the one that is in the light can see the one that is in the darkness. So if you are seeking to the people in your community, as we did in Nirim, and in other communities that are in greater need, sometimes it is a part of the healing. So we started to do so, and after that we doubled and even more our efforts of protective presence, because, and I can bring a lot of details. We don't have the time for that, but of course you can ask me after that. The situation also in the West Bank was and still really bad. And I must say that a lot of people ask me, how can you do it? Like, you were attacked by the Hamas, you survived with your family, but we lost so many friends all around, not only in Nirim. Our friends in Niroz, the neighboring kibbutz that unfortunately become famous, and in Sderot, and in Ofakim, Kfar Aza, and other places. And I feel that it's not that I'm doing that and also that, but that make me even more devoted to those values and actually to those actions, because values is really important, but it's even more important to pray with our feet and our hands and do the thing in the field, because this is the only way that I can imagine taking my children back to the border of Gaza and trying to build again something that it's really hard right now to see when we see the devastating damage in Gaza, when we see more than 20,000 women and children that are dead in Gaza. We can say it's not our problem. We can take responsibility. We don't have any empathy to the others, to the enemies. They are all enemies and so on. Or we can choose to go back to our values, as you mentioned in your prayers. Go back to the values of Abraham that is arguing with God about collective punishment. Go back to the values of Jacob that is praying not to be killed, but also he doesn't want to kill. The prophets, we mentioned the prophets, all of them are telling us again and again this wonderful value. And go back to the value of the Torah of the other, of the girl, 36 times. You should love the girl. You should embrace him and understand him. Because I guess it's really easy. It's not the word, but it's really easy to take your power and again to invest that in the way that you shouldn't or you didn't like when you were a slave or a man without power. And this is the natural way that we can go and have power, like we did from Egypt. We are going to Canaan, to the Promised Land, and then use it as we should. After hundreds of years of slavery, let's have slaves and so on. But the Torah stopped us with 40 years in the desert and saying we can break this chain. It's really, really hard, and we can see in Israel it's really hard, even to Jewish people, it's really hard. But this is the challenge, the real challenge, and we are promoting that. And the last thing that I learned or think in times of real darkness, it's the vision that we need to have. Because if our only vision right now, the vision of our coalition, the vision of the loudest voices in Israel, you should know that a lot of Israelis, we can see in polls and so on, really support diplomatic solution, really support stopping the war, and of course a deal with returning the hostages. But the loudest voices are pushing that back and talking about occupying and annexation and going to Gaza to make another settlement. We didn't settle yet again in the Gaza envelope and in Galilee, but they want to settle in Gaza and throw away all the other values of Judaism. So we need to have another vision, and actually we don't need to invent anything because we have such a deep and beautiful culture, in my opinion, and I'm talking about Judaism, but also about Zionism. The Declaration of Independence is talking directly about that. They are saying in the midst of this war, they are talking about 48, this war was much dangerous to Israel. You know, after they signed the Declaration of Independence, they took it to a safe, and Golda Meir said, maybe this is the last thing that this country is doing. So in the midst of this war of 48, we are holding our hand of peace to the Arabs and asking them to be part of building this country on the basis of equality. And we want to be part of the flourishment of the Middle East. And of course, we support justice, and as the Prophet said, and so on. So in a way, we are trying to go back to this base. We are trying to have this argument that we are part of the mainstream of Judaism and Zionism, and we should fight for it, not only for the Palestinians. Of course, they are human beings. We should fight for them. I'm fighting for it, for my children, for the future of this country. We don't want to be a country like, I don't know, Lebanon or other countries with militias that we are seeing, the militias in the West Bank that are attacking our fellow Palestinians, but also our volunteers. Just now we finished the Olive Harvest campaign. We were outside for more than 30 days with more than 1,000 Israeli volunteers. And a couple of days, we got 20 or 30 people coming from the illegal outpost, half of them masked with sticks and stones and sometimes with guns, and attacking us, attacking the volunteers, attacking the Palestinian farmers. And we should stop that because this is bad for Israel and, of course, also bad for the people that really believe in those values of the Declaration of Independence of living together from the river to the sea. So I want to thank you again for having me. In those times, I don't know exactly what emotions each of you have, but I know that sometimes it's hard, and I must say that as an Israeli, I feel in myself there are all the voices are inside of me, of the revenge and despair and anger and so on. But at the end, the Jewish tradition is telling us, ראה אנוכי נותן לפניך את החיים ואת המוות ובחרת בחיים. There is life and death. Choose life. It's like a recommendation. Choose life. So we need to choose life. We need to promote that in actions, not only in prayers and nice thing that rabbis tend to do, and this is really important, but also in actions. And we want you to be with us. We want your support. We want you to come and visit with us in the field. And I hope that we will have bשורות טובות. We will have good news soon enough for our hostages, for this war to end, and for peace to be and flourish in the Middle East and also in the entire world. Shabbat Shalom.
For those of you who would like to continue the conversation and maybe ask some questions to Rabbi Dabush, there will be an opportunity after the service. So at around 1:15 we will have lunch and also Q&A with Rabbi Dabush. So please feel free to stay, whoever you are, whether it's the first time you're here or not. I know that some of you brought something to share for our lunch. Thank you so much for it. But even if you didn't, if you would like to stay, please stay. This talk reminded me of one piece of history of the synagogue. Some of you know that the walls you see around is Jerusalem stone, brought from Israel, and I think not far from Hebron. But the team of stonemasons that built it is 50% Israeli Jews and 50% Palestinians. And I think that this synagogue is literally built on the idea of coexistence. And I really hope the hope is very small at the moment, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't have vision for it. And thank you for reminding us for it and in such a personal and eloquent way.